So if you haven't already heard, the Australian census is happening, or should be happening right now, but the website went down. So I thought I'd do a bit of a background on this, because it was quite interesting and it's kind of really relevant for IT kind of support kind of stuff, and it was kind of quite interesting. So the Australian census happens every 4 years, like it does everywhere, and they decided to do it online, which is great, like fantastic. But it didn't quite go to plan. So in Australia there are about 23 million people, about 9 million households, so there's about 2.6 occupants per house-ish. The census website was designed to take up to 1 million form submissions an hour. Now, that's quite a lot, admittedly, but bearing in mind the way the census works in Australia is you have to submit it all on the same day. So you have almost like a night to get everything done. So between maybe the hours of 6 and midnight, you've got that time to do it. So with 1 million requests or form submissions an hour, that's not that many. So there's 9 million homes. Of those, 2/3 are expected to complete online, which equates to about 6 million. So trying to then put that into actual real world kind of situations. They anticipate about 260 form submissions per second, which is not anywhere near enough to cope with that kind of amount of capacity. That suggests that there's more than 1 million people, because you can, like, the actual peak's probably going to be more like 2 million, so you've always got to double that to make sure it works. Their recorded peak was 154 per second, which is a lot less than what they planned on. Obviously this is before the website crashed. So about 2.3 million people managed to submit their census, which I'm included as part of that because I'm a 457 holder, and also I'm in Australia. No matter who you are, you're a visitor or a legal alien, whoever the fuck, you have to fill it in. But if you put this into stark contrast with something like Steam. So Steam obviously is a completely different beast. It's much bigger. It's international, etc. They had a peak of about 1 million for Dota 2 in the last 48 hours. But obviously they're international. So this was actually based on IBM soft layer. Basically, because it's got to be internal, you can use external servers for this kind of shit. So with Census, because it's got to be Australian, it's got to be submitted through an Australian service, because it's got to be secure and all that kind of rubbish. So they used IBM's cloud infrastructure within Australia to manage it, which is fine, except for the fact they only had $9 million to do it, and they've got 9 million households, 6 million households to get that submitted. Now, that kind of stuff on that kind of scale is not going to happen, because it's a national thing as well. $9 million is pathetically small when you consider actually how many people it's going to take to implement it. By the time you add up operation costs, server costs, all that kind of stuff, $9 million is pathetically small. Especially when I look at the annual bill for IT, especially even within the public sector and definitely within the private sector, it's usually more than that per year. It's massive. I know I've worked at places before with £9 million worth of IT costs per year, including servers and everything like that. For thousands, hundreds of thousands of users. So it's weird that they reduced the number to be that small, because $9 million is pathetic. Now, you equate it to actually how many households that is. That's $1 a household, which actually is probably more than what you'd usually pay if you were going to create a system like that anyway. But you'd use servers not in Australia, you'd use servers in Asia and America, and you'd load balance it properly, and you'd be able to expand things properly. So it's kind of one big clusterfuck of things, really. So pretty much this whole thing is completely failed miserably, because the Australian government didn't spend enough money. The ABS, who deal with the statistics, didn't mitigate it properly. They did some load testing, but didn't do some proper load testing on it, and the whole thing is a big mess. The fallout from this is obviously now basically there's no fine, so there was going to be a $180 per day fine, and they're also going to extend I think the submission till the 23rd. So the reason this all happened was apparently because of a DDoS. So the ABS are claiming that, the ABS claimed that there was a hack. Now, hacking is not DDoS, and DDoSing and hacking is two separate things. DDoS is a denial of service attack, and it is an attack, but it's not a hack. It's not someone trying to hack into your servers and get access to data. This is just basically someone completely caning your connection so people can access it. So that's basically what happened. And now this is in contrast to what the ABS has actually said. This is coming from a minister who did an interview with ABC recently.
I will be clear from the outset, this was not an attack, nor was it a hack, but rather it was an attempt to frustrate the collection of Australian Bureau of Statistics census data. ABS census security was not compromised.
Who basically said, oh no, it's basically a DDoS attack, and it's not the same thing. I suspect that actually it's not DDoS. I suspect what actually happened was it overloaded the server, and it wasn't. It was just a normal it was similar to a DDoS attack in that too many people were accessing it at once, and that was about it. Because a sheer number of people were actually accessing it at a time, that's probably why it failed. And it looked like a DDoS because essentially, like millions of people accessing a website, and also one person DDoSing a place is also pretty much the same. And their argument was, it was a foreign nationals, etc., but they blocked all those connections anyway. You couldn't access the Census website regardless. From its inception, you couldn't access it from outside. So people had to disconnect VPNs, all that kind of stuff. This was reported earlier in the day, or early yesterday anyway. So it's kind of it's interesting. It's interesting to see how it all goes together. But from an IT standpoint, we all saw it. I joked yesterday with people how long is it going to take for this, the whole website to crash. I didn't expect the website to be taken offline. What I expected was people tried to submit, they couldn't submit, they just have to try again, like everything else happens, and then eventually it all sorts itself out. The government says, you've got an extra day to submit, and it's all good. But because you're trying to get everybody to submit it pretty much within the hours of 6 and midnight on one day, you're going to have problems, of course you are. But that's pretty much it really. There's loads of stuff on the register. I'll put some links and all that other kind of stuff. And there's some fallout from Census on Twitter as well. But apart from that, I'll catch you in a later video.